Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
T minus 4 days till the Premier League kicks off on Friday, James. 8 o'clock kickoff, Liverpool v Bournemouth, which means all that tinkering time that we might or might not have had. You need to get down to business now, people, because you're going to have to start actually locking things down and making some decisions. We've had the kind of final round of preseason friendlies over the weekend. There's a few bits and pieces ticking along. Some competitive fixtures this week as well, James. You know, the old Super Cup.
As if my week wasn't challenging enough.
Oh dear. One of our colleagues at work, James, that you know, Malcolm, he said, as long as it's less than 6, we'll be all right. So I don't think the optimism
in the first half.
Well, maybe is particularly high, but there is that fixture still to play. But other than that, on the whole, I think we have had a pretty solid weekend of preseason friendlies where for the large majority of teams, you can kind of get a feel now for what at least like 9 or 10 out of the starting 11 looks like and what shape these teams are gonna take. So here we go, James. We are going to obviously cover off some of that. But before we get into that and also reveal where we are with our drafts right now, the marathon is over. So we're now into the sprint. And the marathon was, of course, Correspondent week last week with some familiar faces that have been with us from the beginning, with some new faces making their Planet FPL debuts and Correspondent week debuts. Solid week of content.
Yeah, gracias, mate. Yeah, it was a good week, I think, other than the fact the correspondents put us off nearly every fucking player on the shortlist. And this podcast is very much about shortlist, where we're going to kind of have a run through in terms of updates from the weekend and players kind of still on our mind following last week. And obviously updated news from the weekend. Yeah, super display from the correspondents. Want to thank all of them for their contributions. And also Nico, who's quietly busy away doing everything in terms of the video product behind the scenes. Yeah, really good stuff. Now's the bit where I really plug patrons. So if you want to support the show, keep the lights on. www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. We've got a busy week of content publicly. Clayton's back tomorrow. Woohoo! Or
yeah,
depending on how you feel. Clayton James show tomorrow. Wednesday, me and Suj are going to do chip strategy. Thursday's going to be Ask James. I don't know what time yet. Because I'm basically getting back from Italy and going to do a stream. So I'm going to estimate sort of 5 p.m. So there won't be content out in the morning. Lunchtime Thursday is going to be an evening, most likely, stream. And then me, you and Clates are all going to do our final drafts on Friday. We'll need to do it on Friday, Suj, because I'm nowhere near locked in. Unlike this time last year where I couldn't do nothing, could I? Because I had the 4 Tottenham players sitting in the drafts.
4 Spurs players sitting there.
It stopped me doing the tinkering. Just want to do a quick shout out on mini leagues. Firstly, for our patrons, please see the pinned post on Patreon, or also you can view a link of that via the FPL channel on Slack. That gives you information on all of our mini leagues. You need to be in your respective tier mini league before game week 1 if you want to enter the Patreon Champions League. The public mini league, by the way, is L for Lima, Z for Zebra, I for Indigo, F for
India.
What is it? India, not Indigo.
It's in India.
I used to sell bags for you as well.
Lima, Zulu, India.
F. Hold on, they're going to forget the code now, aren't they? L for Lima, Z for Zebra, I for India, F for how I feel about my FPL team at the moment. What's F? Foxtrot, isn't it?
Yeah.
B for Bravo, which is not how I feel about it. And the number 5, LZIFB5. That's the public mini league. If you win that, you can be like Jacob Hinchcliffe and land yourself a position on this podcast with me next summer. Right, shall we go through where we're at in terms of the
Nah, your plug for
clubs.
Patreon was too quick, James.
Oh, go
Just so
on
that
then.
everybody does know. I mean, look, we obviously had the free month in July. If you've hung around from then and want to jump into the content, we're going to make a real big effort to make it the best season of Patreon stuff that we ever have had. The Slack community is there for you to go to for banter, for advice. They're just a really good bunch of people in there. If you ever feel like Twitter can be a toxic place, that definitely isn't one. We've got all of these competitions that James has talked about. So we're going to have a dead league where set and forget team. We're going to have a differential league, less than 10% owned. The Champions League that you've talked about. There's people that play Gaffer, Cloud FF, Telegraph,
Cloud
all of
FF,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff going on as well. So a real good bunch. We're talking hundreds of people in there.
UCL Fantasy.
Exactly that as well. So why not come in and be part of that? There's cash prizes in some of these leagues. Don't tell the towers.
Doesn't matter.
But
No one's paying to enter them. They pay for
exactly, that's
Patreon. They're
very
getting the
true.
mini league for free.
Patrons, the prize money is just a part of the fun. Obviously, additional content each and every day, and it just helps keep the lights on and keep us growing the brand. So yeah, please do come and join us over on Patreon if you want to. No obligation. Try it for a month. If you don't like it, then cancel.
No
Thank you.
ads from basic tier.
Indeed, that as well. Thank you to the 20,000 people that have subscribed on YouTube now, James.
Yeah.
We don't get no
Nico
plaque for it.
told
I'm
me,
gonna
he said,
make yeah.
we'll hit that number at the start of August. He told me that months ago, so he's spot on.
Well, can you ask him when we're going to hit 100,000 then, just so I can prepare myself?
I
I'm going to
will,
make
yeah.
us. I'm going to make us a cardboard plaque. Well, I might get one of the kids to do it, just so we can have it on the wall. As you know, talk about manifestation, James. We're going to do it. I'm going to present it to Nico next time I'm down in London. But yes, we got to the 20,000, and thank you to everybody that has subscribed. If you're not one of those people that has subscribed but are listening in, hit that button. It helps the algorithm. It helps get the word out, and we want to become the biggest FPL channel in the universe. And Andy, Let's Talk FPL is 50 times ahead of us or something. So we need to chase that guy down. Talking about Andy, just a little anecdote before we get into the team. So I had obviously I'm in Portugal at the moment. I had a mate of mine come over last week on holiday. So we met up for lunch or whatever. He had a 10-year-old kid. Yeah. So he's got his FPL team. We're talking about FPL, having advice. And my mate says, yeah, he watches Andy, Let's Talk FPL. And he was well impressed with you. You got nearly 20,000 subscribers. I was like, yeah, it's 20,000. It's not like, mega. It's not like Andy's 250, 300,000. And this little 8-year-old comes around and he goes, what are you talking about? He's got 450, 500,000. I was like, I've never felt such an idiot in 10 seconds. It's like, all right, fair play. Go and watch Andy. Switch me off. Fine, done. But yeah, there you go. We're going to catch him in 2035.
Let's get into these. It's time for us and Andy. The only way we're catching Andy if he gets himself cancelled, let's be honest.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Nico, get him on Nico's corner, which is a Patreon special. We can figure that out. Go on, Andy. Let's get into these teams, please. Let's do this.
Right, we're going to talk clubs first, and then we're going to do some drafts at the end. We're going to run through the clubs in the order that we did them on Correspondent weeks. I think it kind of part continues the story. I think the main changes for Liverpool is obviously what happened yesterday. A few people will be taking Mo out their drafts. I think my advice to them would be, if you're going with Mo Salah prior to yesterday, still go with Mo Salah. And if you were going without Mo Salah prior to yesterday, it's probably still the same scenario for you. Don't be too influenced by yesterday. The league champions normally don't win the Community Shield. I think it's like 1 in 13 or something.
Really?
So yeah, it's mad.
I didn't realize as low as that.
So we shouldn't be that surprised, basically. I think in terms of the fancy elements, bits that have changed is Ekateke would have caught people's attention. Yes, he scored a brilliant goal. The way he struck the shot was actually very similar to the goal he scored for Frankfurt at White Hart Lane in Europa League. And he does like to drift left. That's really, really clear. Vert's played really well. He's an exceptional footballer. I have a little bit of question mark in my mind in terms of what the output would be, but he's ideally a player I'd like to start with. I think
remember his price in FPL.
8.5 Verts.
It's just just cheap, right? You say you've got to remember the output, but you're not comparing him against the Palmer or a Salah or whatever because he's just so much cheaper, or Saka because he's so much cheaper.
Well, it's 1.5 shorter than Saka, so it's not that far off that range, mate.
Yeah, no, but I'd expect less output from him, but I don't think we'll get less output from him, truth be told.
I think
Let's
probably
see.
the biggest change from the podcast with Dan is obviously Connor Bradley is injured at the moment. So when me and Dan discussed, we were really concerned about Frimpong. Kind of at that point, thought that Bradley would probably be starting the season. That's now not the case. I'm pretty sure Jeremy Frimpong will start on Friday night. So I think he's really on the table at the moment in terms of comparison versus Van Dijk and Kirkes. I think at this moment you'd probably go Frimpong over Kirkes actually. I guess it's going to be down to how you feel in terms of whether you want the reliability of Van Dijk's minutes or what Frimpong could be really exciting going forward. So I think Jeremy Frimpong is really back on the table. Van Dijk versus Frimpong is going to be close for me. I'm highly likely going to start
Yeah.
with one. It depends on my risk, I think, in the rest of the team. Is going to be an influence on
I
that.
didn't know about Bradley's injury. Is it serious or
No,
we
not at
don't
all.
know?
But he's missed the last two friendlies, so there's no reason to think at this stage that it's not
No, no,
Frimpong's shirt to kind of
no.
lose. And I think from that perspective, he should be safe for the first three. After the international break, stuff obviously might change from there. But yeah, I'd be very surprised now at this stage if Frimpong didn't start game week one. Eketeke is unlikely for me, but I wouldn't rule out, particularly if there's some dodgy Liverpool injury news this week. Verts, Gakpo, Salah, obviously all really under consideration. So it's more than half the Liverpool team still on agenda for me. I'll start with at least two, I think, and every chance that'll be free.
Copy paste Verts for me is a lock. I've wanted Frimpong from the start, but kind of swayed towards Van Dijk because of the uncertainty around Frimpong. But I want to chase the upside of Frimpong, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm happy or unhappy that he scored yesterday. Like, does that mean the hype's going to be there and then he won't perform in game week one, or does it just show that he will be able to return? So I'm with you where my heart says Frimpong, my head says Van Dijk. The way I want to play the game, I might just go a bit rogue and go Frimpong. But there's just the two for me. I'm going to leave the third spot open for now with Liverpool.
It's not impossible to end up with Salah, Verts, Gakpo, and none defensively. They look a little bit more open at the moment. I think there's been stuff in pre-season that's been a little bit concerning from the defensive perspective. Also factoring Gravenberch's suspended game week one. Alexis McAllister's kind of been managed through pre-season. So I think there's a little bit of concern about them defensively at the moment. And also part of my plan, it'll be different for people when they win a wild card and stuff. My plan is probably to move, if I have a Liverpool defender, it's probably to move it on in game week 7, probably. So if you're looking across the first three, if you think Bournemouth score Monday night with Newcastle and Arsenal afterwards, there's every chance you're looking at nothing clean sheet wise in the first three. So they're not definite for me, but I still think either Frimpong or Van Dijk is probably my favourite from the 6 million range across all the clubs. So I think I'll still go with one. Won't be two.
Yeah. Forest?
Forest, yeah. Forest failed to score again in their two friendlies played since I spoke to Mark. Two more 0-0. So they've had 5 0-0s in their 7 friendlies. They've scored one. They've scored one goal.
They've also kept 5 clean sheets or 6
5
clean sheets.
5 0-0. So you can read that. So defensively looks fine. I think we know what the goalkeeper and the back four will be. The fitness concerns that we did have kind of minor in terms of Williams and Aina have gone away. They're available. We know it will be Murillo and Milenkovic at centre back. Dane Mayer will add one more in sort of like Jair Cunha if they want to go to back 5. I think that's probably more likely to be things we see late in games if maybe they're winning. It should be noted there were strong links with them and Leif Davis over the weekend. So that's something to acknowledge if you're thinking of Williams or Aina. My preference is still Williams on that, by the way. By distance.
I don't think Leif Davis would come in ahead of Williams. He'd be back up for me.
He wouldn't walk in the team, no. Agree with that. Morgan Gibbs-White missed the last friendly at the weekend due to personal issues. He did miss another friendly.
Maybe he's
It's
locked
worth
in
noting.
Mr. Marinakis' basement, possibly.
No, genuinely, it's nothing to do with that because he missed a game earlier in the friendlies, which was again down to a personal matter. So there is something going on in his personal life at the moment as well that should be acknowledged. I don't think many people are starting with him. Notable that Jesus and Wood both started the last friendly, but I don't know if that's a consequence of the fact that Gibbs White was unavailable. Sells, Williams, Morello, Anderson, all going to be in and about it for me. I could start with a couple of Forest. I could end up starting with none. It's probably going to be from them four. Going to kind of miss out. I know Anderson kind of technically falls under the attacking line. But I don't see me going with an attacker, Hudson-Odoi and Doyle Wood. Don't see it off that pre-season stuff.
Yeah, Sell's pretty much been in for quite a couple of weeks now. Don't see him going anywhere for me. And Elliot Anderson as well. I saw somebody had tweeted some stats around Elliot Anderson, and forgive me, I don't remember who it was. My use of X is just awful, but it showed how Anderson's def cons, I think from around game week 10 or something, was like most of it. It was almost every week. He'd only missed like 4 weeks of def cons after a specific game week, after game
And
week
his
10
minutes
last
were
season.
lower in the first 10.
Yeah, exactly that. So it was like, oh, okay. When you look at the whole season and say he got, I don't know, 25 DEFCONs, but when you do look at it, he got 25 out of 30 once he was like solid. It was almost like a no-brainer for me with Elliot Anderson because his base was so close to 4 points almost every week. So I've toyed around because I've had drafts where I've ended up with like 1.5 million spare. And then I'm looking at it thinking, where am I going to upgrade? And I've looked at, okay, well, Elliot Anderson's one I could get up to a 7 or something. I'm like, nah, do you know what? I don't see any reason. He's such a set and forget for me at the moment. I can't pull him out. I've left him in. So I think Sells and Anderson for me right now are in. I'm not going to double up on the defense for now. I'll see how they get on. But yeah, those two are in for me at the moment.
I think if Anderson goes in, he really falls into the line of think longer term about it. Like if he was planning an early wild card on a game week 3, 4 or something, I'd be looking for something with more upside than that personally.
And
But
also,
if you're looking longer term, you
if
think
you're
he's
using a
going to sit
chip,
there for 12 weeks. It's like it's better.
yeah, if you're using a chip as well, obviously that's another consideration. But yeah, I think he's a good asset. Both of them good assets. Yeah, agree with you on Forest for sure.
On Burnley, there's only a couple of under consideration for me. Steve, as everyone's kind of fondly calling him
Yeah,
at the moment, Maximus Steve
hey
at
Steve.
centre back. I think he would be the 4.0 defensive one to go to. Their fixtures aren't brilliant, but there's a couple of combination weeks I think where it might sit in nice for you. Obviously, particularly game week 2, game week 5 is another one. I think if you need to use it, it's fine. I landed with one draft I looked at and I thought, oh, that's bench boostable in game week 5 actually. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail maybe on Wednesday's podcast. And obviously, Dubravka has joined Newcastle.
No,
Burnley, sorry, from Newcastle.
yeah,
As has obviously Leslie Gochukwu and Armando Broya signed as well. And there are going to be more incomings. On Dubravka specifically, Hidaki and Vax Wies both played 45 minutes each at the weekend against Lazio. Wies saved a penalty. Dubravka's got a minor injury issue as well at the moment. So as it stands, unless Scott Parker tells me he's going to start at the weekend, he is not a 4.0 goalkeeper for a bench boost. He's fine to put in because I think he will become the number one, but it might not be immediately, you know.
oh,
I
thank you for
know.
that.
And
I don't
goalkeepers,
have 500,000, James, to
well,
get a 4.5.
goalkeepers are a problem. Would probably be a little bit of a theme with this. I don't think, as it stands, I don't think Dubravka will start at Tottenham as it stands. They changed system as well at the weekend. So they went to a back 5, and that's the first time they've done that in pre-season. So I think they probably prepped for, generally speaking, a back 4. I think there's every chance they'll play a back 5 at the weekend at Tottenham. I messaged Jack over the weekend. I said, I'll take a stab at what I think the team will be. I said, Wies, Roberts, Walker, Stev, Ekdal, Hartman, Hannibal, Gochuku, Cullen, Anthony, and Foster. Because Ian Fleming has also got a minor problem at the moment as well. And he said, yeah, I think you'll have a fair few. Weiss, Foster, Roberts, still big question marks, but think the rest is probably right, is what Jack said.
So if Dubravka's out and we know
It'll be Weiss.
Sladaki,
It'll be Weiss. It'll be Weiss.
but if he's got a problem, then it won't be.
What do you mean?
Yeah, injury problem. Didn't you say he's a
No,
doubt?
Dubravka's the doubt.
Sure, but didn't Jack just imply that Weiss wouldn't play? No.
No, I think no. He mean it's up in the air whether he starts. Is what
Right.
he's saying. I'm saying Dubravka is too risky for a bench boost at the moment.
Okay.
If you want to go a 4.0 goalkeeper and you look in a little bit longer terms, fine. But unless Scott Parker comes out and says, yeah, Dubravka is going to start for me this weekend, I don't think he'd be part of a game week 1 bench boost, is my point.
Okay.
As it stands. Palace, obviously, congratulations to them. Another trophy won yesterday against Liverpool. I played well. I didn't see the game, but it sounds like they probably deserved at least a draw on the day. I think we very much knew what their team would be anyway, bar question marks, as discussed with Rory about central midfield. And Kamada picked up an issue yesterday, so that probably he went off in the first half. So it probably means Will Hughes will start game week 1. So we pretty much know the Palace team, other than Gay might have picked up a minor issue right towards the end of the game. And I think we have to note that Gay and Eze could still move on. I'm beginning to think this window is going to end and Eze will be an Arsenal player.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, James. But I don't know if it's a very gut feel kind of
Yeah, I think there might be an element,
isn't
here
it? It's not like we're hearing rumors of contract talks or he's keep throwing his toys. It's very just a gut feeling. They need that position. He would fit their system. He wants to go there. I'm sure Palace could do the money. It's time for him to step up in a World Cup year. It's a very gut feely instinct that Eze may end up at Arsenal. Gay, I'm less convinced about. I think Gay
as well.
probably stay where he is, but I'm not sure.
There's been links, obviously, Liverpool, Newcastle, though Newcastle look like they've gone in a different direction now. And you've got to think that Chelsea might be back on the table now as well with the Levi Colwill issue. Maybe there might be something Chelsea try and exploit. Chelsea will look at it and go, value a player, we're getting him at under his value. Even if it doesn't work, we sell him on, make profit. Ultimately, yes. So I'd be conscious of that. With Eze, obviously, Palace, it's Monday morning time recording. Palace should find out their Court of Arbitration for Sport appeal about their Europa League ban today. That's really kind of been prohibitive to them in terms of what they do in the transfer market. So I think it might be a case that Eze is quite late in the window. He starts the season with Palace, and it's about Palace getting in what they want first, because Palace have been so quiet in the window. I wouldn't be surprised if there might even be a shake hands on that at the moment, possibly. But Teta's presumably on pens after another really dodgy Eze effort yesterday. Munoz will be a consideration. So's Mateta, but I think I probably need an injury personally for Mateta to be a consideration for me. And I don't think I'll start with Ismail Assar. But I would say I've come to the conclusion that of the 6.5 million midfielders, I think it's probably the best choice. And the off-put on him is like Chelsea away game 1 and Villa away game 3. There might even be games that's suitable to him specifically in terms of on transition. So I think Sarr is probably the best 6.5 billion midfielder at the moment. I don't think I'll start with him because I don't think I'll be starting with one personally.
Sarr, let's start there because that's where you finished. Is that player where I've seen other content creators talk about his stats and his XG and his underperformances against XG and all of that kind of stuff. And yet none of the stats can convince me that I think he'll end up being a good pick. You know, where you have this clash of like, well, the data says that he is the best 6.5. There's no doubt about it in terms of, I don't know, what his goal involvement last year woulda, coulda, shoulda possibly have been. My counter is just, look, well, he didn't really ever tear it up at Watford. He hasn't really torn it up at Palace. He's done fine. He's perfectly all right, but he's never really excelled. I just can't get convinced by all of this "it will come" type thing for him with Ismail. So I get it what the stats show. Doesn't excite me at all. I think he'll end up just frustrating, to be honest with you. Just call him a right-sided Wilf Zaha or something. He just doesn't interest me at all. I can get the appeal of Mateta, though, at 7.5. Like if I wasn't on João Pedro and João Pedro's ownership being a little bit freaky, maybe Mateta would be the next best for me for that slot. And I agree with you on Munoz. Munoz was in my draft, James, the first one that I sent you before I replaced him with Pedro Porro, only because I had 5.5 and that's a game week one bench boost position. So would I rather obviously Burnley at home or Palace or Chelsea away? I'm going to go Burnley at home with Porro. But I think Munoz is the better pick over Porro. Just that one game week, probably not. Should I choose not to bench boost in game week one? I think Munoz will come back in for me. But the others I'm avoiding.
Okay, let's move on to Leeds. Jack Harrison got an interesting reception in Dublin at the weekend when Leeds played Milan. Booed every touch when he came on as a substitute. Ed had warned us on Correspondent Week that he probably wasn't welcomed back to Leeds.
Why?
Something to do with some comments I think one of his parents made about not wanting to go back to Leeds or something.
Oh, okay, fair
Has
play.
not been helpful. I don't know if there's comments that Harrison might have said as well. Jaden Bogle didn't feature again at the weekend, but he does have a chance of making the Everton game. And obviously, of course, that fixture's not until Monday. Remember, Luca Beale is suspended game week one. We do anticipate it'll be first choice centre back after that. Daniel Farke spoke at the weekend again, reiterating his need for new attackers. I think Joel Perot probably does start game week one as it stands. But I really think that's a risky pick. And I think by the end of the window, Leeds will have a different number 9. So if you want it for Monday, it's probably fine. I think he probably does start. I'd be looking beyond that personally. There are 2 Leeds players really under consideration for me. Joe Rodon is one. Beale might come back to the table for me if I decide not to bench boost in one, which is a possibility. And I'm getting drawn more and more to Lucas Perry, the new goalkeeper, actually. I can see me going with him as a 4.5. I think the off-putter with him and Roths at Sunderland is I know I can have 4.0 defenders from these 2 teams. But actually, when I look at Perry in terms of a combination of rotation with Bruggen, I actually now like that more than the one I was looking at with Kelleher. So Perry's actually a really strong possibility for me now in goal.
And that's it.
Yeah, I won't be going any offensive.
Yeah, I toyed around with Bijol in Bijol. Called him
Either.
Beale. I call him
Yeah.
Bijol.
Ian
In my
Beale.
draft.
Just call him Ian.
Ian Beale.
Ian Beale.
Beale. Instead of obviously the slot I've got for Porro, just to cheap that one out. That's obviously a no bench risk in game week one play. But based on what our Sunderland correspondent Spencer said, like if he had to pick a 4.0, he said he would go to Bijol as the one from Leeds. 6'7" or whatever he is, threat from set pieces. So the fact that he didn't pick any of his own 4.0s and would have gone to Bijol makes me think, yeah, well, maybe that's the play to go to. But as it stands, I'm on bench boost game week one, so he's off the table. But when I need to free up some money, and when we go to drafts, you'll see I've got a ton tied up in defence. He'll be a place that I can go to easily free up some cash.
Spencer has a bit of a fascination with big heads. But moving on, let's talk about Fulham. So good minutes again for Josh King at the weekend. 73 minutes again. As it stands, it would almost be a surprise if he didn't start at Brighton. So I think that's the most exciting 4.5 million midfielder in the game. Big caveats would be they've done next to nothing in the transfer window, so we should expect something. And obviously, we don't know how that develops once we get further on. So if you're relying on it for, a bench boost around about game week 8 or something, bad weeks to play Arsenal. But I don't think you could do that. But if you want to start with him and, all right, forget about him, he's going to be my 4.5, there might be some upside. If you want a bench boost in game week 1 with him, as it stands, I think he starts, and he starts. We're not talking about central midfielder here. We're talking about an AM. We're talking about him basically playing the 10 position. Important notes on Fulham. There was a second string team on Saturday as well as the first team game against Frankfurt. And we don't quite have the information of who exactly played in that second string game. So, for example, the team that played the first team game, Alex Iwobi came back into the team. Emil Smith Rowe wasn't in the squad. We can't look at it and go, it can't be Wilson, Iwobi, Smith Rowe. It might be, right, in terms of the three
Yeah,
behind the one. The one now, Suj, having talked you out of it last week, is highly likely again to be Raul Jimenez. Increased speculation again about Rodrigo Muniz moving on. Atalanta is the latest name that's been mentioned in terms of potential interest, and they may well have money to spend because Ademola Lookman has been heavily linked with a move to Inter Milan, amongst others. So Muniz could go. Obviously, if Muniz goes, they let Carlos Vinicius go as well. They'll buy another forward. So
sure.
I think with Fulham, you're kind of output thinking, right, well, what's next here? What if, what if, what if? There's lots of that. So the only attacking one for me consideration would be King at the moment. The only other player I'm likely to consider is Joachim Anderson. For me, with the rotations that I'll possibly need, it doesn't work quite so well. But we anticipate he'll do really well for DEFCONs. I think that's absolutely fine if people want to go there for Joachim Anderson at 4.5. Just a note on left back. So Anthony Robinson has been struggling pre-season. Ryan Sessegnon went off injured at the weekend. So had a young lad, Samuel Missa, who came on like 25 minutes into the game for Sessegnon. He's a 4.0. He could play left back, but so too could Jonathan Asenja. So too could George Cuenca, where I think maybe they move Calvin Bassey out to left back. But the most likely solution probably there is that they just play Castagna at left back. We know that you
Oh,
can play there, right?
yeah, switch them
So
across.
I wouldn't get
Mm.
drawn into any of those Fulham 4.0 defenders. Bournemouth.
Yeah, I was going to like I've got nothing to say on Fulham to be honest with you. Um, Josh King's an interesting. I don't want the defense. I want to see. I mean, look, we know how inactive they've been in the transfer window, but Lewis did say it in Correspondent Week. They leave things late generally, which is understandable. But I need to see him settled and what that 11 looks like, and maybe we'll go there in a bit. Josh King doesn't quite do it for me because I think there's a 5 million in Dewsbury Hall that might be just safer, better, reliable, longer term, and not a problem that I'm storing up for myself. So yeah, I've got nothing to add on for them. I'm afraid they're not of interest for me. Go on, Bournemouth. Chuck
Yeah,
them in the same
they
boat,
also
but yeah,
played two games at the weekend. The team that played the second team included Evan Nilsson. That shouldn't be a concern. I think what that was a case of, they wanted to have a look at Krupi with some of the more first team players. We saw this very similar with another team recently where we felt, yeah, there was a younger player playing. In fact, it could even been with Josh King, might even be one of them where they kept looking at him with the kind of first team personnel. Petric saved a pen. He's pretty much probably the only Bournemouth player under consideration for me at the start. Zabani didn't play in either game at the weekend. He's highly likely off to Paris Saint-Germain. They've got a deal agreed for a new centre back, Bafade Diakite from Lille, for circa somewhere between 30 and 40 million pound. He
it's
may end up
fair
going,
fee for
yeah, it'd be the
centre back.
second
So
highest in their history, I think, after Evan Nilsson.
okay,
Every chance he gets thrown in Friday night. I'm not going to tell you anything about the player. I don't know anything about the player. Justin Kluivert still struggling with an injury as well. I noticed as well that Winterburn played in the 10 position, who's a 4.5 as well. I don't think it would be a shock if he started at Anfield, actually. Subject to fitness of Cliver and others. Alex Scott also featured in that kind of second string game though. So I think he'd be more likely to start. Krupi at 4.5 will get some minutes at various points. You're more likely to block yourself of free Bournemouth down the line than maybe you are with free Sunderland, though. But I mean, as it stands, Krupi's probably more likely to get minutes than Gu at the weekend if that's what you're desperate for. But I'd be very, very surprised if he started at Liverpool.
I mean, with the state of their squad and the fact that the game week one fixtures away at Anfield, it makes it hard to start with any Bournemouth players unless it's really long term sticking in and you're going to have, and you think saving myself a transfer further down the road. But like you said, who? I don't see anybody of interest there at the moment. We'll come back around, I think, for Bournemouth when the time comes.
Yeah, agreed. Petrovic is not impossible for me. That's the only one in terms of the start I'm considering. It's kind of similar story with Brentford, actually. I'm only really looking at the goalkeepers, and this is where it also gets confusing because Kelleher didn't play. in either of Brentford's games at the weekend. We think he was left out as a precaution, and it's a similar story with Kevin Sade as well. But you're hoping for words that you can trust from Keith Andrews going into the weekend, and we've got nothing from Keith Andrews to know if he's the sort of person that's going to tell us the truth or not, right?
Mm.
We don't know what he's like in terms of how he might deal with press conferences, etc., or whether he'll give us the information. I would say Valdemarson, who was a bit of a friend of yours last season, Such, is an
Well,
opportunity.
he was a bench warmer for me, but yeah.
So, under the Bravka circumstance, where we're looking at him at the moment, going, not sure he's going to play game week 1. If Kelleher was ruled out, even if just say the weekend, it's like, oh, he's going to be out this weekend, but he might be back game week 2. Valdemarson, considering Forest's scoring record in pre-season, might be one that works specifically for a bench boost game week 1. You go, right, bollocks, I'm going to leave that. That's dead. And I'll go with that sells, maybe pay a little bit more
Well, this
for
is
the other keeper.
that's what my keeper is, but then it's my two goalkeepers going against each other in game week 1
Yeah,
on a
but
bench
Forest games
boost.
are all ending 0-0.
Exactly. So it's a dream scenario, isn't it? Yeah, I get that.
And I don't think Brentford are. I mean, Sade might not play for Brentford as well, right? So they're not necessarily in the best shape going forward. Lewis Potter did play OOP. He played left wing in the game at the weekend. I think Fabio Carvalho at 5 million is highly likely to start game week 1. And Keith Andrews spoke at the weekend about really wanting to improve his output this year in terms of goals, etc. But I think we should acknowledge that they've been linked with people like Dango Utara. And if someone like that arrives, it will probably get in the team ahead of Carvalho. So again, it's probably an overlook. I think Vandenberg at 4.5, I discussed this with Tom last week. I think is a really interesting one if you've got the right sort of rotation. I think their fixtures are tough enough across the first 10 or so. And their home fixtures are dreadful. Their first 6 is all against expected top 8. That rotation probably doesn't quite work. But I've already got him in mind for the Christmas period, potentially. I think that could end up being a really good 4.5 that I wouldn't be surprised if by the time people want a wild card around about game week 13, if he's in sort of the 4.3 range or so, and could be really interesting. We think he'll start. Don't think Aaron Hickey will start as it stands at the moment. Tough opening for them. I think it's keeper or nothing for me.
It's nothing for me. So yeah, there we go.
I look at I just look at Valdemarson as a possible opportunity,
yeah, as a bench
just a possible opportunity, and I haven't ruled out Kelleher because I don't hate the Kelleher Verbruggen rotation, but I kind of lean towards the Verbruggen Perry one more now.
Okay, understood.
Your team, Suj,
Yes.
you can do this bit. Hermanson's signed.
He has released at the weekend, obviously gave a wave on the pitch and what have you.
What was he waving bye-bye? He took one look around that shit and went, oh, I'm going to turn back round.
He did not, James. He's very happy to be part of the West Ham family. I think we've got a steal here. 15 million for a keeper of his quality is a ridiculous price, I think, considering his age profile as well. So happy with that. Look, Areola saved a couple of penalties in the penalty shootout at the end. So he's kind of like the hero of the friendly at the weekend. He ain't staying in goal. Hermanson's been bought to be number 1. Is Potter's choice. So if you are on Areola, why? But also, yeah, forget about it. I don't think Hermanson's been priced up, but we know he's going to come in 4.5. Let's be honest. So
I don't know why he wouldn't. Yeah,
no, he's not going to be 5. So
well, you couldn't start with him either.
No.
I don't think you can start with Areola either.
No. You can't. I think Areola will play this weekend, and then Hermansson will come in like a week. I don't know. Maybe Hermansson will be that good in training that they're like, yeah, you're going straight in. Let's see. But it wouldn't surprise me if
I wouldn't rule that out.
Areola doesn't like being sub. He kicked up his toys out the pram a bit when he was behind Fabianski, so it wouldn't surprise me if he left.
Who's your number 2 at the moment? If I'd take one of them out.
Fodringham.
That's not great, is it, League One, Wes? So.
No, it's not. He's a third choice, homegrown. But Hermansson within a few weeks, Hermansson will be number 1. He's a good shot stopper. He's a good goalkeeper. Behind the back 3, I think we might see a little bit more defensive solidity, but now is not the time to be going into that.
Okay. The Wan-Bissaka Diouf debate will rumble on. I don't think there's anything new to add from a really good conversation I had with Chris last week, and I know you and I have spoken about it.
Yeah.
I know your preference is Diouf.
he was he was great again at the weekend, James. He was on the end of a headed chance. Of course, he's whipping the ball in every single time. If you were an eye test manager, James, there wouldn't be a debate. You'd be picking Diouf over Wan-Bissaka. Having said that, some of Wan-Bissaka's tracking back and tackling on the DEFCONs was solid as well. Like he did what he would do. Yeah, I think it is a upside on attacking. There's no doubt Diouf is there. Upside on DEFCONs, there's no doubt Wan-Bissaka is there. So pick your poison, go for it. I'm going Diouf.
Yeah, my preference is the other way. It does fall into more line in terms of what I want when I need it, because I think it's worth. This is an interesting point anyway. If you go with either of these two players, and I think Max Kilman, by the way, again to repeat last year, I think he's part of this conversation as well. But whichever one you go with, you're probably not starting with every week. So what do you want? Do you want something that when you use it is going to be kind of a little bit more reliable in terms of kind of the higher floor, if you will? Or do you want, right, well, yeah, bollocks, I'm going to play Diouf at home to Burnley whenever that is. I mean, it's game week 11, isn't it? You might, oh, yeah, works out. Play Diouf in game week 11. Like, how do you feel about that? It probably comes down to preference. I would look at it if something goes wrong and I need Wan-Bissaka more often. I prefer that. That's
Okay.
more my viewpoint at the moment is, okay, if I need to use this player every week in the short term where I deal with injuries or whatever, that feels better than Diouf.
Yep.
That's how I feel about it. Others will feel the other way, and I think it's close.
The only and the other thing I would chuck out is when Carl Walker Peters came on, Wan-Bissaka can drop as a right-sided centre back, and Carl Walker Peters plays the wing back role, whereas Diouf he's only playing the wing back role. He isn't going back to left-sided centre back. So that could happen in certain situations.
But then I don't. Wan-Bissaka, even as a wing back, is not someone we look at and think, oh, that's going to get me X attacking returns.
No.
If he ended up at centre back, might even make him an even better asset.
For the DEFCONs, for sure. Yeah.
Bowen is near Sheeran for me. You?
Yeah. I mean, again, forget my biases aside. He looks sharp on it. He had one volley kind of shot that just you're like, oh yeah, he's absolutely on it. He looks fit. And raring to go. I can't get him out of my squad at the moment. No.
Any temptation to drop to Fulkrug?
Yes. Yeah. Do you know, it feels like...
But you're not going to do it.
I'm not, but it feels like a new signing because we've just not had him fit at all. Like, I haven't seen him this fit ever at my club. So it almost feels like a completely new signing. It's clear that the intention is to play the two of them together, Fulkrug and Bowen as a pair. They are a strike partnership now. Fulkrug drops in. He can finish. We saw again he scored at the weekend, a good goal. There's not that below 6.5 in terms of strikers. There's not a lot about. I think he'll be the highest scoring striker below 6.5 or lower. Maybe Strand Larsen might be in and around it, to be fair.
Strand Larsen's 6'5", isn't he?
5, yeah. So 6'5" and lower. Strand Larsen, then I think Fulkrug is the next best out there, ahead of like a Welbeck or something like that. But I'd pay the extra for Bowen, and I don't. There's still that concern that if he picks up a knock, you're going to be annoyed. But he looks as fit as he ever has. There's definitely temptation, James, but it's not enough of a temptation to make me do it. He's a good shout, though, Fulkrug. He knows where the back of the net is. He's happy. He's full of beans.
If I just went and compared to just the 6 million forwards specifically, which I think is what, Thiago Jimenez is 6'5", isn't he? So
he's 6'5".
But if I compare it even just with those two players, I think like Evan Nilsson and Larson will be their club's number 9s moving on. That's fine. When I think of Thiago and Jimenez, I feel like the transfer window might close and it might be someone else. Like if Muniz goes, Fulham buy. If Brentford make an assessment, because I mean, who does play number 9 for Brentford if Thiago's not available? Is it Sade, as maybe I discussed with Tom?
Pushes up.
I think maybe they go back into the market. Whereas because you've bought Wilson, I think Fulkrug is safe for the minute. I will repeat what I said last week, that I think Wilson is better suited for Potter's style than Fulkrug. There's no doubt Fulkrug's going to start at the moment. So if I did have to start with one at that price bracket, it probably would be Fulkrug. But I have every intention of paying the 2 million more for Bowen.
Yeah, exactly that. On Wilson, he wasn't even on the bench at the weekend.
Yeah.
So
But I think
read
what I
into
mean
that what
is
you will. I saw a
those are
great
your two
tweet.
nines.
You know, he sprained his wrist signing his contract. Apparently, Wilson, something like that.
So harsh. I'd see as well. You confirmed no Antonio as well.
Yeah, he's
He's
left.
not signing on.
He's left. He's left. It's kind of there's been no fanfare, but it's all the social media stuff. Even Antonio, it's kind of amicable. Shame.
So all that bantering Antonio and Wilson did together on their podcast, and essentially Wilson's now nicked his job. Have I
Yeah,
got that
but
right?
Wilson Antonio did an interview at the weekend where he came out and he was like, he thinks Callum Wilson's going to do really well. He's happy for him to get that chance. You know, they ain't
What did
shitting
you
on
want
each
him
other,
to
so-
say?
No, but
He
they're
wasn't
not
going to say
shitting
in
on
public,
each other. Are they?
prick.
He's not. You can read between the lines. Yeah, they asked Areola in a post-match interview like how he felt about competition. Now that Hermanson had come in, and he gave the answer. It's all about the team, not any individual. You could read in his eyes that that's not what he meant. Yeah, with Antonio, it was all right. But anyway, it's simple. It's Wan-Bissaka or Diouf. It's Bowen or Fulkrug, but I'd go Diouf and Bowen as it stands right now. Skip the rest.
Fair enough. Let's move on to Manchester United. Benjamin Sesko deal complete. Time of recording, I don't believe there's a price for him. Just double checking. No. I think he'll be sort of 8.5, I would think.
Yeah,
roughly,
my guess is
somewhere in there.
8.5. If they really wanted to match him up to Gyökeres, they would go 9, but I don't think there's justification. Gyökeres is signed for Arsenal and Sesko signed for Man United, and with respect, Arsenal better team, so they'd price him in higher. So I think 8.5. If they want to make him tempting, if they put him in at 8, I think it would be all okay. That's a cheap price. Let's see.
It'll be interesting. I think whatever his price is potentially going to be interesting, but I don't think he starts game week 1.
No, that's also true.
So what they did at the weekend was basically play Mason Mount as a false 9. So I think we might see that against Arsenal. That's not to suggest you go and get Mason Mount for your FPL teams. I think that's Højlund didn't even get off the bench, so I think they're trying to push Højlund out. He's probably going to go now. Sesko will be number 9. They played with Bumo Cunha behind. Fernandes played the deeper role alongside Casemiro. Doesn't necessarily make Bruno Fernandes a bad FPL pick. He played kind of multiple positions across pre-season. Attacking numbers are good. The DEFCON numbers are good, almost irrespective of where he plays. He can definitely be considered. And I really like him, Suj, in terms of perspective of even captaining game week 3 at home to Burnley. Just to know that with him, if he rocks up an attacking return, that he could haul. And I actually quite like that. There's some Manchester United games where you could just stick it on him and go, "Do you know what? It might be this week. And if it returns, it could return really big because of bonus DEFCONs on top." Bruno Fernandes could score a penalty and comfortably have 10 points from the penalty, the DEFCONs and top bonus before we've gone appearance points, etc.
I think he'll be top 4 or 5 point scorers in the game this season. I think he's up there as we've got a conversation about our dead team at some point. I think it's today or tomorrow. Whenever we talk about it, for me, when I'm thinking about dead team players, like Bruno Fernandes is it, because it's just that ability to get points in every single way. Like when we had Sky Fantasy Football, there's a few players that could get the defensive and the passes and the goals and the assists. Bruno Fernandes is that for me in the game. That conversation about that downgrade to Cunha for the 1 million, I struggle to justify it just because of Bruno's all-round involvement. So yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely.
I'd like to go Cunha. I just think that the sign of Sesko, I want to see how it settles down. And those opening 5 fixtures are tough. The pull of Bruno for me is, I think, right, we go in, every chance I would captain him in game week 3. And he just basically sits in there for me, at least until sort of they go to Liverpool in game week 8. There might be a period there where I think, okay, I want to jump this up to Palmer or Saka, for example.
But he is fixture proof in that respect as well.
Although I'd like to get Saka in 7, and Fernandes has Sunderland at home that week, and that feels quite awkward. So I wouldn't be selling Fernandes with that fixture in front of me, I don't think. Fernandes under real consideration. I think Cunha is an unlikely for me, but I wouldn't rule it out. I do like Dorgu as a 4.5 if you're thinking longer term, because I think he falls in terms similar line of say Diouf. The concern with what they don't have the concern is in terms of no European fixtures, but I do think like across the season, people like Dallo are going to be in for minutes, and I do think Diallo is going to start right wing back as it stands, and he's obviously going to want plenty of minutes. So I think with Diouf, there's no real threat. It's kind of my more point of comparison with Dorgu, it's like, okay, is he going to get hooked a bit early and stuff like that? Listen, that could even play in for clean sheets, possibly. Might work the other way, right? He
Yeah,
comes
it's
off
true.
before they concede, for example. So I like him, but that's probably going to be a no for me, I don't think. Just in a note on the centre backs, because Alex spoke up quite highly about the Lit last week. Aidan Heaven did start left-sided centre back. I don't think you can go there, but I don't think we should rule it out as an impossibility that he does play at the moment. And Maguire played over Delit. Alex was quite keen on Delit. I personally would be more keen on Maguire if he plays regularly because it's cheaper. I think
Okay.
Harry Maguire would be absolutely brilliant in this game now, longer term at 4.5 if he was going to play regularly. So I not one from the start, too risky, but one maybe to come back and have a look at later on if he's going to be first choice. I think Maguire will do quite well, but I wouldn't risk that to start with.
Yep.
Newcastle, no players of interest for me at the start.
Me neither.
They have got a new centre back. He's arriving. Malik Fior's coming in from AC Milan. I don't know how quickly he'll push to start. That's not completed, but I even saw an interview with him last night talking about leaving Milan. So it's kind of openly getting done. Forwards are clearly being targeted. I think Johan Visser will go there. I think there'll be another forward on top of that. And I think once that's all sorted, I think Isak will go to Liverpool. I don't think the Isak deal is going to happen before they play each other in game week 2. I think it will be right at the end of the window, and I think it probably will happen. Anthony Gordon, who, if I was going to consider one Newcastle attack, it would have been him, should be fine. He did twist his ankle late in one of their friendlies at the weekend. He put on Instagram that he was fine, no big deal. I would describe him as a very minor doubt for the game at the weekend at the moment. And just a note as well that Lewis Hall played a midfield role.
Oh, really?
But no, they played 2 games. They're light in midfield at the moment. To re-emphasise, they'll probably want to improve in that area. But it's not like they can't play Livramento left back, Trippier right back, and Lewis Hall was say a left-sided 8. Like he could
Yeah.
play the role. Just something to bear in mind. But yeah, I've got no interest in starting with any Newcastle players. Can't believe
Now,
it.
watch and wait.
I'll have a look at them again ahead of game week 3.
Their game in game week 1 with Villa, though, is possibly one of the standout fixtures of the weekend in terms of seeing how both teams play and settle and what have you. I think I'm looking forward to that. It could be an interesting game, but yeah,
I think
not
if you ask most
not there.
Newcastle fans at the moment, they'd say I think we'll get beat.
Yeah, I get that, but their team hasn't suddenly just because Isak's not available hasn't suddenly become bad, right? That midfield,
No,
Guimaraes, Tonali, Joel Linton, still competitive, right? Murphy, Gordon, Barnes, goals in that team defensively. Still, it feels like Isak's leaving, and the sky's falling in. The rest of that team still has enough talent, and you still got the majority of the first choice 11 available. So, they're capable. They just need to have a bit more of a positive mindset. But let's see how they get on. If they got something out of that Villa game, I think the mood around St James will change very quickly.
okay, let's move on to Chelsea. The big news since we recorded with Gary is the ACL injury to Levi Colwell, which is obviously really unfortunate.
Awful.
They played 2 games at the weekend. On Friday, they played kind of a half A, half B team. And I thought it would be the same yesterday. But essentially, the team that played yesterday could well be the game week 1 team. So played Sanchez in goal, James Chalobah, Adarabioyo, Cucurella, Casado Fernandez, Neto, Palmer, Bino, Gittins, and João Pedro. Like that could easily be the team
Yep.
that lines up against Crystal Palace on Sunday. What I said on Friday was that I felt the Levi Colwell injury killed all the Chelsea defensive assets. Based on where he played yesterday, it hasn't killed Mark Cucurella just yet because he went into, we haven't seen it so much over the summer, back into that position when you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've got to have him in my FPL team. He was going back into these kind of left 10 positions off the ball, so they tucked Reece James in. I think that feels a little bit more awkward in the sense that Adebayo or Chalobah, I don't think are particularly suitable to left-sided centre back. And if or when Wesley Fofana's back, I don't overly think that he is either. So we shouldn't rule out Chelsea going to go and buy another centre back. Don't go and get like I know Adebayo is going to tempt a few at 4.5. If it's something that you're going to need, do not go there. We cannot rule out Chelsea going to go and buy another centre back. But Cucurella and what happened yesterday, I don't think should be that off radar. It is, however, also worth noting that AC Milan had a player sent off relatively early in the game. So that obviously freed up Chelsea with a spare man. So I didn't watch the game, but that may well have also helped play into being even more aggressive offensively because the opposition were down to 10 men. I haven't ruled out Cucurella. One of the big reasons for me is if I look at plans further down the line, I can see me wanting to go back to him for kind of like a 4 or 5 game spell before then wild carding. And obviously, if he goes in, he just stays in. But I also think if he ends up being the left sided centre back regularly, which is still kind of more my instinct, I think it'll end up being a bit shit. Chelsea defenders are unlikely to pick up defcons. You're picking them up for attacking returns or clean sheet potential.
I've been on a little journey with Cucurella. We'll come back to that. I know you mentioned Palmer, João Pedro in for me. Palmer and João Pedro have crazy ownership, both great assets, great fixtures for Chelsea. Let's roll the dice and see where we go. João Pedro, I feel a little bit reluctant with. I feel like it's a bit of a bandwagon pick, but I'm gonna go with it. He always talent is there, so let's see.
I don't actually have much doubt on João Pedro.
But in his ability to return.
I mean, my front three feels like there's a lot could still change in my team, but I think João Pedro, Barry, Watkins being my front three. I can't see that changing.
Yeah, me as well. Cucurella, I moved to Colwill when I needed to get the money in to get João Pedro in. But that allowed me Morgan Rogers as well. Then obviously Colwill got injured.
And Rogers got injured.
And I moved Rogers down to Dewsbury Hall, gave me money. And rather than go back to Cucurella, I went to 8 Nori. And now I've got 8 Nori. I'm happy having the City defender, and I don't want to get back the Chelsea defender. And I take on board your point. You wanted something Chelsea rather than you wanted Colwill at the time. So I'm going to skip Chelsea defensive for now, go with 2, which gives me the option of going there should I want to, or pick up a third Chelsea in a different position should I want to. But yeah, I've gone Cucurella to Colwill, but then didn't go back to Cucurella, ended up at 8 Nori when I was doing the hokey cokey. So yeah, not going to go back for another Chelsea defender. Palmer, João Pedro, yeah, leave him in there. But talking of 8 Nori, is that a segue?
No, it's not, because I want to talk about Palmer a sec. I said prior to Correspondent week, it was pretty much the only player that was a certainty for me. He's not at this moment.
Is that because obviously to get to Salah?
It's captaincy. I don't when I look at things like this weekend, if you go kind of Salah Haaland-less, I think most will captain Palmer. You've seen yesterday again from Palace. I don't need to see the game to know. Like, that's a difficult opponent. Fulham, game week 3, is also a fixture that doesn't scream out to make me think, oh, I want to captain a player against Fulham. The weeks where I'd be considering for captaincy don't scream out for me. I actually don't think he's best for captaincy until we hit game week 9. Now, if I sacrifice him and put Mo in, probably means the consequence, probably sacrificing Verts as well. Then the chain of Salah first 5 to then have Haaland sort of 6, 8, and then back into Palmer, Saka 9 is something I'll speak about more at the end, but he's under real consideration for me. So while others are pulling Mo out yesterday, possibly, I'm more maybe heading back in that direction. And I think if I don't think I'm going to bench boost in 1, which is subject to a lot of news this week, then Mo becomes even more likely for me. I don't like captaincy this week at all, except for Salah and Haaland. As it stands, it's bust on Gakpo for me.
I'm on Palmer, maybe stick it on Bowen, maybe even on Verts. I think Verts is not a bad shout.
I also think Enzo Fernandez also falls into that 6.5 category. That's fine. But I think the kind of general inkling feeling is that he's probably coming a zero point 0.5 more. And in terms of the defensive, just to close, obviously Colwell being injured is bad for Chelsea. It's obviously bad for him, but they will be weaker defensively without him because I think he's their outstanding and most trusted defender. Just a note for those considering Neto as well. Esteval had a very lively weekend. And I think there's a chance he's going to be involved more than people think. Don't think he'll start, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting there in like a month or two and he's already in the team. I think that's a possibility.
Okay.
City. So I loved all the people who have been doing all their stats on Elliot Anderson for the last month, just to see Rangers score twice against an Italian second division team and then tear up their drafts. That's the sort of shit that makes me happy. However, he could be very interesting. So Rangers did score twice at Palermo at the weekend. I think it's very important to say that City played two different teams, 22 players played 45 minutes in that match at the weekend. And I think the kind of the key information from the weekend is obviously about Rodri being out till September. Now, that doesn't make Rangers better, in my opinion. I think we can look at it and go, well, he's more likely for minutes. It's true. But he may have to end up playing a deeper position because the unks, as Johnny describes them, are a potential problem. You know, Gundogan playing the sixth position against a good transition team like Manchester United in game week 4. And I think they're very much going to become much better than that. And then say Arsenal in 5, they're in big trouble, potentially City. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rangers moves back deeper. The real consequence that might be important for Rangers, I saw Johnny Pringle tweeted this last night and I retweeted a tweet that he put out, is what happens with Rangers might even be dependent in terms of how Pep feels at the moment about Nico Gonzalez. Because there was rumours of he might even potentially have been moved on again already this summer. So if Gonzalez is trusted, good for Rangers. If not, not convinced personally. I think him at 5.5, like if he's going to be in the team regularly, yeah, he's underpriced. There's every chance to say he should have been a million more. He should have been like Enzo Fernandez.
6.5, yeah.
So I get the appeal. Very punty. I think them fixtures are not great at the start, and I'd be concerned about that. I think 1 appeals. I think 2 is obviously fine. It's like City's fixtures progressively get worse across the first 5. Then it swings back with obviously like the Burnley, Brentford, Everton fixtures. Then a tougher run again from 9. So people want to punt Rangers. I still think it falls into that line at the moment. Punt. Phil Foden wasn't fit enough for the weekend. So too Josko Vardiol. As soon as you saw the Vardiol news, I think everybody went, and I did the same. 8 Norrie. He's got to play now, hasn't he? And then I looked at them 2 teams that played 45 minutes at the weekend, and I went, it's so obvious that 8 Norrie will play against Wolves now, particularly with the right-sided problems that Bradley spoke about, that he'll definitely play, which means that there's a chance that he won't. Nathan Ake could play left back, right? And we shouldn't rule out Pep doing that. And whether it's that's this week or next week or the week after, Nathan Ake is fit and available. Nathan Ake could play left back. If Pep wants something that's going to move something up the right-hand side, i.e. Lewis into midfield, or he wants to push Matthias Nunes really high that side and not push a left back up, and they can do both. We've spoken about them doing this a lot. 8 Norrie potentially doesn't play. Johnny was really bullish about him last week. I understand why you are. I'm quite bullish on him. I see the risk element to it. That actually, my instinct was, when I heard the Vardiol news, right, he's in. And I thought about it more and it's like, nah. I don't need
He was in for me before the Guardiola news, and I like the potential upside. Do you know the convincer for me was much more Bradley's take on 8 Norrie than
that it would destroy them. He probably will.
But just that his general assessment on 8 Norrie's footballing ability, like 8 Norrie is a good player in my eyes. I've never really thought of him as like elite, but I mean, Bradley was convinced his technical ability, the way he'll get forward, his kind of off-the-cuff nature and so on. I thought, you know what? I fancy that. I also fancy City to come out the blocks this season quite fast because they are well aware of the competition with Liverpool and Arsenal in terms of winning the league. A few years back, it was just Liverpool and there was no one else that was really going to touch them, and they were better than Liverpool, so they probably in the driving seat. I think they're playing a bit of catch up here and will need to come out the blocks fast. I'm backing eight Nori. No one else. Any of those others could be good assets. I can come back to, but I think I am going to back eight Nori, and that's because I'm going to back City to come out of the blocks fast.
Yeah.
You could say what you say about eight Nori. Could he play Aki there? Other than Haaland, you say that about anyone in that team. So at that point, you're kind of like, well, you can't keep just second guessing. Go with it, and it'll be what it'll be.
You can, because I had the best FPL season I've had in a really, really long time. And it was primarily a big reason for that was having no Manchester City players.
Well, that's what I say. So second
And I
guessing
know
by
they had a
picking
tail
none
off.
is fine. Yeah.
But also, do we really think that if, like, Rodri's out till September, Johnny was really bullish on Eight Nori, but I tell you what he also said last week was, if Rodri's not really available properly, they ain't going to be challenging for the title this year. Don't care how many players have bought. It's too important. And he's got to get back to his best, because they'll still get done so badly in that centre midfield with the youngsters and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for what it's worth, I do like 85-90% actually think Eight Nori will start game week 1. And I think Nunes will probably play right back. I think centre backs, probably as it stands, probably Akanji and Diaz. And I do think Reinders plays as well. Mind you, I wrote down on my notes last night, predicted team for game week 1. I actually had Savinho in it. And the overnight news is that it very much could actually be going to Tottenham. If Savinho goes and Foden's not ready yet, I think we have to assume that's the case. The winner might be Marmoush again. But it could easily be that it's like Bernardo Silva off the right, Doku on the
Doku.
left, and Reinders even ahead of Gundogan and another. Like, it's different ways that they can do it.
I
But
get it.
Marmoush might be one suddenly. You look at the team for the weekend and think, yeah, this looks a lot better now. Oscar Bob is another one who we spoke about so much this time last year. So obviously he had his bad injury. Might suddenly come back to the table really quickly. Because in terms of profile, he's probably most similar there to Savinho, I would guess. Cherky's another one, could obviously play minutes. So I think if Pep said, oh, Rangers is going to start at the weekend, I'd be alerted to that particularly. I do think Aitner will start. I wouldn't completely rule him out, but I think there's too much risk. I think Haaland, I would consider if I had forward injuries this week. That period of game week 6 to 8, I feel like I want him there. But I also feel like the captaincy over those couple of weeks is a little bit more manageable than it is at the start.
The City ownership is crazy low.
Yeah.
Eight Nor and Guardiola, the only defenders within the ownership. Marmoush, Rinders and Cherky, and then Haaland. It's really, but you're talking everything's less than 20% or less. Most of it's like 15. So low.
There's also certain alternative strategies I've seen. Like, I think Alex, our Manchester United correspondent, intends to start with Haaland. And I think he was looking at free hit 4, which means then like you're covered in terms of Salah playing Burnley. You can obviously stick him in there. And I think he's looked at that and then felt like it was better just to start with Haaland. So, because he thinks he's the best captaincy in 1. And it might be. It might be that Salah is the best choice in game week 1. But I think most are going to still go Salah over Haaland. Everton.
Toffees. Yep.
James Tarkowski's highly likely to be in with me. I think this is where you can end up thinking about this game too far. James Tarkowski probably won't start for me if I come to a conclusion I want to bench boost in game week 8. That's how deep some of the thinking goes. And the reason for that is I think game week 8, we'll speak about it more Wednesday, just lands where your enablers, it could just fall absolutely right. But it doesn't, because Everton play City away.
Right.
And as much as you can look at a Tarkovsky, oh yeah, and I know even when they did the video about the adding of DEFCON this year, they used the Tarkovsky video at Manchester City. But the chances are he's still probably a 3-pointer, isn't he? He's a 2 or a 3-pointer. So I wouldn't want to start him in a fixture like that, even though I know the ceiling for that is potentially high if they go down and win 1-0. I also know that's extremely unlikely. And the 2-point difference is probably not going to make me change my mind on that. Only that I think, yeah, get 2 or 3 points rather than 0 or 1. That's all that would change for me. Otherwise, I think he'll go in. I think him over Branthwaite is quite straightforward. Mikalenko might have picked up an issue at the weekend. He obviously came off against Milan. Sean said that Asnu wasn't brilliant. he is 4.5. Please don't start with it, even if Mikalenko's confirmed out. There's different
Yep.
things they might do. Could even shove Brantwaite out there and O'Brien into centre back and then play someone else at right back. There's a few different things they could do. So I'd ignore that early on. But Tarkovsky's the outstanding one. Centre backs or defenders and defensive players, let's say. I think Dewsbury Hall is beginning to look like a bit of a gift at 5, but not a certainty for me, Suj. But he played the 10 position at the weekend. He played really well. Two big chances created against Roma, and he's pretty much shooing to start at Leeds and continue in that position with what they're doing. Sean spoke about this on Correspondent Week. It was the same at the weekend. James Garner dropping in deep to kind of help with their build up through phases. And then Garner Gay pushing on further, and then Dewsbury Hall further on top of that. That's how they'll likely start.
KDH, sorry.
He's no KDB, mate, but
Yeah,
for
I know
5
that.
million, I don't need him to be.
Nah. He's the one that I don't want to chase, really, if he starts.
I don't think he's the sort of player you're ever going to end up chasing. It'll just be I have or I don't.
I don't know
And
if
he might become someone when, say, if people are thinking about Salah, Haaland, 5, 6. I mean, I quite like the idea on that, by the way, of Salah and Bowen to Marmoush and Haaland together. It's the exact money. But Dewsbury, you could Salah to Dewsbury Hall, right? And then you get off of a cheap forward up to Haaland.
Yeah.
Do it that way.
I think, he's not going to do a Morgan Rogers, for example, and get up to that like 6+ million where you're like, okay, I've missed it. And I don't think he'll return in the way that Rogers went off. Did Rogers start at 5 last year or 5.5?
5.
5. I don't think he's going to quite go off in that way. But I'd rather have him there as a set and forget. Is he on set pieces as well quite a bit, Dewsbury Hall? Possibly.
I imagine
Not sure.
the dependence on that would be subject to how much McNeil plays. Sean is of the opinion that McNeil won't be first choice for Everton now,
Yeah,
and we know that Grealish is going now, so it might be he takes half maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's the only one for me right now. I'm avoiding the defense. I can come back to that later.
Yeah, Jack Grealish has said it does look like he's probably going to go to Everton. There's noise over the weekend, and just a note, Barry started as well,
Yeah.
rather than Beto at the weekend, so that could be either. I don't know. I don't know who'll play 9 at Monday night. Feels like it could be either to me at this moment. So yeah, Tarkovsky, Dewsbury Hall, the only two on radar for me at the moment. And Dye, I've ruled out based on that pod with Sean last week. He probably will start off the left. We think that, but once Grealish comes in, it might well move to the right.
Yeah.
Wolves, nothing here for me, I don't think. Though I do think there are loads of interest in potential assets further down the line. I think if you can hide Agbadu game week 1, I think that's a decent 4.5 that will rack up some stuff. Similar with Jose Sarr, pretty confident he's number 1. I think that's fine for rotation further down the line. You could do worse than João Gomez at 5.5 in midfield. But for a similar price, I personally would want to be more punty on John Arias. Bradley said they were pretty inept going forward in their friendly at the weekend, and there's real concerns about that, which, by the way, just plays into the Aït-Nouri narrative even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not in great shakes. But they've got to sort out that right wing back problem. The loss of Semedo and Aït-Nouri, we spoke about it last week, is almost bigger than the loss of Cunha in terms of how they are stylistically. Getting more and more worried for them. It's what the manager achieved in the last 6 months of the season gives me confidence rather than looking at that. If they lose them 2 in central midfield, wow. I think they'd probably go. Like, I mean, if they both got injured, I'd be really worried for them.
Yeah, the only one of interest for me would be Arias, and not right now.
Larsen's fine. Again, particularly if you're taking a longer term view. I know that some of the models come out the weekend of recommending Larsen as a good pick. I have no problem if people want Larsen 6.5. You know exactly what you're going to get. I think he's probably showing up really well as well because there isn't really much of an alternative. So he's going to be close to a 90-minute man. He'll be talisman, I think. I think he will outscore Arias. I think Arias is going to be interesting. I looked at several plans of roundabouts game week 8, 9 to find money, and that they've got Sunderland and Burnley in a row, like game week 8 and 9. And I do think it might be one that comes around that's quite interesting further on. I don't want to start with it though. I think I would start Anderson over Arias as a comparison. I would go the safety route on it till I saw something. But then I also feel like if I go Anderson, I don't want to piss about with that. Like you're staying. There's a reason why I put you in.
Yeah, agreed.
Villa. So they played two games at the weekend with mixed teams across the two games. So that makes the lineup a little bit difficult for the weekend. I would say in terms of certain starters, I'd say Bizot will play in goal because obviously Martinez suspended game week one. Cash and Konsa will definitely start. Kamara will start. Tielemans will start. Watkins will start. The rest of it could be a number of combinations. Like it could be Torres or Mings, it could be Ding or Dino or Matson. You've got Ramsey, you've got Marlon, you've got Buendia's about, Bailey, McGinn, Anana. Not sure. Felt like we spoke about it with Lee. Like, is their squad a bit thinner? But actually, the one plus for them is that it's pretty much fit. I don't think they've got many issues. So there's a lot of options at the moment. So like Marlon, for example, if Watkins got ruled out this week, I'd probably steam into it and punt it because I think he played a nine for a little bit. The feeling on Rodgers at the moment is that he'll probably make it for the weekend. That seems to be the feeling at the moment, but I do think it's probably too risky for people to start with at this moment.
Have you taken him out for now?
Yeah, yeah. For until I'm not starting with a player 7 million that is a doubt potentially to start game week one. If Emery came out on Friday and said, "Yep, good to go, he'll start," then he may find his way back in my draft
Back in.
really late. And you know what Unai Emery be as well? Get the information about 3 hours before deadline. It'd be so late.
Mm.
There's hardly no doubt about it. Always does his presses late. Evan Gessander's another one as well, made cameo appearances in both. I'd say he won't start game week one, but you're also adding him to the squad as well. So I think for me at the moment, considerations for Villa would be Rodgers if there's clarity. Ezri Konsa really works nicely for me on rotations. I know it's not going to be DEFCONs and stuff, but I'm still looking at it where I'm potentially playing him in weeks like Burnley at home in game week 7, Leeds away game week 12. Like it just works for me with what I'm looking at potentially for rotation. Otherwise, it's a bit shit. Tielemans under consideration. I'm not ruled it out, particularly if there was bad news on Rodgers this week.
Yeah, but I don't think there is.
No,
I looked at Tielemans as just a straight swap for Rodgers, but I didn't like it. Price was he's 6.5, I think. James,
six Tielemans.
is he 6? Yeah, I don't think so. I'd rather go down to Dewsbury Hall at 5 and use the money elsewhere. I'm not saying he's a bad pick. Just doesn't excite me.
Watkins shooing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Their fixture's just too good.
Yes. And game week one, I think, is as it stands, is better than it looks on paper as well.
Yeah.
Arsenal. The only one I'm really considering for the start is Gabriel, purely on the basis that every plan I look at, I know I'm getting there further down the line, a little bit like what I said with Cucurella. But Gabriel would be a certainty I'd want him or Saliba as an alternative. So I have looked at a few bits, but it's like, should I just start with it? And I'm quite comfortable playing him in majority of games, even some of the tougher ones, because I know they're capable of clean sheet anytime. I don't think I will, but he's not ruled out for me. Otherwise, the rest I'll come back to. I think probably the difference from conversation with Adam last week is I think Gyökeres will start at United now.
He
Havertz
scored
got
at the weekend, didn't he? So
well, so did Havertz. In fact, Havertz scored a brilliant. If you haven't seen it, it's worth a look. You
okay.
watch it and you go, I didn't know he was that quick. He scored a brilliant goal, Havertz. Gyökeres scored a great header in the first half as well. I think he'll start. I know that's not a certainty. There's no way I'd pick him over Watkins anyway. There's also the bias from my perspective. I'm almost certainly going to free hit in game week 2. So, like from an Arsenal perspective, that really leans into forget them and go free of them in game week 2. But I think he'll start at the moment. I think Martinelli will probably start as well, just because the opponent first game. But I think Madueke will probably take that position quite quickly. We've said Eze will still come in. Lewis Skelly didn't start at the weekend. Calafiori started. I wouldn't read too much into that. I think he'll come back in. I think the Arsenal team against United could just be Lewis Skelly for Calafiori. Otherwise, the team that started that game against Bilbao, I think.
I had Saliba. I don't know why I had Saliba. It was just one of Saliba or Gabriel. Conversation we had last week. I was like, well, Gabriel served me so well last season, and he is a threat. Just stick with it. Stick with my guy. So I put Gabriel back in. I want Rice at 6.5, but there's no slot for him in my squad right now. And Gokeres I can come back to further down the road as well. I could get there from Bowen or from Watkins somehow. So yeah, I think Gokeres is going to become really interesting if he starts building up a head of steam because that boy does know where the back of the net is. He really
He ends
does.
up in all my plans around
Mm,
sort of there's some getting him in seven, there's others getting him in nine. One of the problems is in terms of going to him, buying him in game week seven feels right. Watkins has Burnley at home. I'm not making that switch at that point.
no,
Then the following
but
week, they're
go there
both
from someone
away.
else maybe.
But if you still had Watkins for nine, I think Watkins to Yokeres in nine would feel
Could work.
attractive. Probably subject to how City are doing, in fairness.
Yep. Brighton.
So I had really high hopes for the pod with Sam, and I thought he was going to talk me up some stuff, and he didn't really. But there's possibly better news on a few from over the weekend. So Verbruggen played,
Yep.
and that's the only reason I won't start with Verbruggen at this. Not because I think he's particularly good, but it feels like it's the 4.5 that I probably want the most out of the choices. The only reason I don't start with him is if I decide on a conversation like a combination such as Sells and Dubravka instead, because I want some Forest coverage there, and I may feel Sells is the easiest way. De Kuiper scored, so not De Crapper yet, and scored from a position where he's arrived into the box. So I don't think there's any doubt about him starting left back at the moment. I think it's very punty with the fixtures that they've got. He's not a consideration for me at the moment. Jorginho Rutter, who I really wanted Sam to big up, loves him as a player, just felt there was too much concern and rotation. Well, he started as the nine at the weekend. Now, I'd certainly accept that Danny Welbeck played in a second string game, but this one looks like with Bournemouth, like Evan Nilsson played for Bournemouth, but it was a little bit of a mix and match. This really did look like a first team and a second team
Okay.
for Brighton. So I think there's every chance that Rutter will start as the nine against Fulham at the weekend with O'Reilly behind as the 10 and Minter and Mitoma either
Width.
side. So a punt on Minter or Rutter isn't ruled out for me. Minter specifically as well, because we know Fulham might have a problem in the left back position. And I might just attack that as something that could go off early on. I think Rutter would be the more likely for me of the two. I also like getting him around about game week 10 as well, subject to how he's doing. They got a really nice swing around about game week 10. But I don't think I'm going to start with any of the outfield players. Rutter is unlikely, but possible. Otherwise, I think it's a no for me.
Brighton are just a no for me at the moment. Yeah, nothing from there has stood out as I want to get in. Nothing, not owning anything there doesn't scare me either. So I think I'm going to be an avoid, I'm
What I
afraid,
really
for
liked
Brighton.
about Rutter, for those who didn't listen to the podcast with Sam, we looked at Brighton's fixtures across the first nine. And they're not great. But what I said to him was, I think as a consequence, if he did end up the nine or did really well, he's a really difficult player to buy, I think, with the way the fixtures sit. But if you had him as OOP up front, irrespective of fixtures, I think you'd be quite interested in that at 6 million. So there's a temptation to start that. But if I start with him, I've got to remove pretty much all the other risks. You know what I mean? Like Frimpong Van Dijk, he just becomes
Yeah,
Van
yeah,
Dijk because I'd have to be conscious of that.
yeah. It makes sense.
Super Spurs obviously didn't play at the weekend because they played in Munich last Thursday and we lost 4-0. And
Played is a
uh,
bit of a
but we tried. I don't think it was a lack of effort. We just got
okay.
absolutely slaughtered. I think for what it's worth, the team that will play PSG is Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Spence, Paulinia, Bentancur, Kudus, Sarr, Johnson, Richarlison. Sarr could play the 10. Would have spoke about with Ricky about Sarr, and we kind of agree. He's the consequence for Sarr and his positioning in game week 1 against Burnley. Because I think Sarr will play because he's got the energy to do the two games back to back. He's been our best player probably in terms of pre-season is the impact of Paulinia. So if Paulinia starts PSG, recovery might be tough. Then Sarr might play deeper. Bergvall might play at 10. However, big news overnight. it does sound like Tottenham might be close to a deal with Savinho. It's a club to club negotiation. The word from the top journalist is that Savinho is keen on the move. About a month ago, I said on this podcast, I was asked about a load of players Tottenham were being linked with, and I said I wanted Morgan Gibbs-White, and Tottenham were listening. And they obviously listened to me and Johnny last week when we said Manchester City have got to sell some overseas players. Have got a really big problem in terms of registering players. City don't particularly want to sell, but they know they're potentially about to make a big profit. Savinho, I like as a player. In terms of the goal output and returns, it's not been there. He's been priced at 7. That would be a wild pump for the weekend if he was signed quickly. But his best position, as far as I can tell, is right wing, and that's Kudus' best position. We need a 10.
But Kudus on the left.
Well, I think in terms of what it would be at them, I think Savinho would probably play on the left.
Yeah,
Savinho left, Kudus right. To be honest, if they play Savinho left, Kudus right, and then they add another 10, then it's fine. I'm confident moving forward. And the reason I'm not hugely down on Tottenham, because this team that we've got at the moment, if it just stayed like this, I said that on Friday we'd struggle to finish top half. But I do know Tottenham are going to do some business.
You would be around top half, 9th or 10th. I've got you down for 8th or 9th this season.
I think as it stands, that's about right.
But you've got 2 players in your shortlist in Romero and Porro. Doesn't put me off either of them. And I think both are decent assets for this specific weekend. Like Porro for me isn't a necessarily long-term hold, but if I'm bench boosting in game week 1, I'm happy to go with Porro. And there's a few other fixtures like Bournemouth in free at home and stuff that I would play him. There is attacking upside. He's a decent asset. Wolves at home, I would play him. If there was no 4 million goalkeepers available this weekend, and I needed to find 500,000 to turn Dubravka into a 4.5 for my bench boost to be safe, I don't mind the downgrade to Romero as well, because I think with the DEFCONs and anything like that, it would be okay. So Porro's in for me at the moment, and it could be Romero if I decide I want 4.5 for my reserve goalkeeper. It's just annoying because I don't really want to have to then reverse, have a 5 million and a 4.5 goalkeeper is a bit annoying, to be honest with you, because then I need to downgrade the 4.5 to free up some money.
Yeah. The Tottenham attacking players are completely off the table for me. Unless the only thing that I could foresee would change that, if Kudus did play in the 10 position, which I would mark as about a 2% possibility on Wednesday against PSG, and he played well, I'd be tempted. I think if he's going to play 10, I'm really interested. Love what I've seen from him so far. Just doesn't look like a fantasy asset that's going to get returns. Johnson with his Savinho links, it's got to be off the table. Please don't go Richarlison. Richarlison is only an interest here if Solanke was ruled out for a period of time. And it might be, but I still wouldn't pick him over like even a million saving v João Pedro, or it just wouldn't be for me. Richarlison would be on pens if Solanke's unavailable. And that seems to be a repetitive question that's coming around. But I just think overlook the fixtures. The assets for fantasy at the moment offensively look shit. On Van der Ven, I cannot shake the feeling that he might not play on Saturday, subject to what happens Wednesday. I can't shake it. I think it's the sort of game where Tottenham should look at the recovery of him. And if he's not cleared, just play Danso against Burnley. Just play. Danso, by the way, if he did end up with a longer term run in the team, would be really interesting. He does head everything out of the box. He's that kind of type of defender you want for DEFCONs. I think Romero and Porro are going to do really well on DEFCONs. I think Porro is going to be a surprise one that's going to do really well on it, on top of having some set pieces, etc., etc. And we know obviously his threat offensively. And I am tempted. I am tempted. So Porro, Romero, maybes, they're the only 2 Tottenham players under consideration for me.
Well, I look forward to seeing your temptation on Friday once you return from Italia, and whether or not you still
I will obviously speak about Tottenham again on Ask James on Thursday.
Sunderland then. I haven't got any Sunderland on my mind, James. Masuaku signed. It's not Arthur Masuaku, is it?
It is, yeah.
Arthur Masuaku.
King Arthur, yeah.
King of the Shedheads.
Shedheads?
Yeah. Have you never seen the video where it's outside the West Ham ground. Someone comes up to him in his car as he's driving off, and they're like, "Can you give a shout out to the shedheads?" He's like, "Shout out to the shitheads." And she's like, "No, the shedheads." And he's like, "That's what I said." And she's like, "They're shitheads." And he's like, "No, the shed heads." And he's like, "Yeah, they're shitheads." I'll send that video to you. It's pretty funny. King of the shedheads, Arthur Masuaku. I might get him in for nostalgia's sake. Tell me he's 4 million.
I don't think it's got a price yet. I mean, Sesko ain't got a price, so that's suppose they're going to.
He has not
got those prices.
Just had a look.
Those prices, obviously, time recordings Monday morning. You will have a Sesko price today. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Yeah.
Masuaku is obviously a threat to Ronaldo. So on the podcast on Friday morning, where I recorded with Spencer, he said Ronaldo was 100% start game week 1. Masuaku signed, and then he said, "Well, yeah, the worst case scenario is that he covers left-sided centre-back at the moment. But a deal appears to have been agreed this morning with Omar Alderate, who's set to join from, I think, Genoa, and he's a left-sided centre-back. So, yeah, there's more incomings for him. I think Ronaldo probably would stay left-back, but I did have a glance at Masuaku's appearances for Besiktas because I was like, where has he been? And actually, it's not too bad. So Masuaku is like a legit threat, I think. Enzo Lefebvre has been managing a minor issue. There has been some speculation about a potential bust up. That's been poo-pooed. But I think if you are looking at Xhaka versus Lefebvre, I know Spencer said, like, if you've got more kind of risk element, go Lefebvre. I would just go Xhaka. Safe as ours is in terms of minutes, etc. You're going to get near 90 every week off him. He's still an outstanding player. There'll be little bits of def cons. He took a free kick from the edge of the box that crashed off the post in the win at Augsburg at the weekend. So I think Xhaka at 5. It's not a consideration for me, but if someone had that choice between the two, I'd go Xhaka. Mark Gu wasn't involved in either of Sunderland's games at the weekend, so I don't even think we could guarantee any minutes on Saturday. He won't start. Mienda will start up front. That's a near certainty. I still think he's the 4.5. If you can hide it game week 1 and you want to go with 2 up front, I would still go with him. But I don't think you could expect any minutes at the weekend. He probably does appear as a sub, but that's your best case, I think. Roast in goal is a possibility for me. Again, rotation is not too bad. Particularly, actually, if I went with Perry, I was kind of more looking him with Perry if Verbruggen was a problem. Ronaldo is probably a no. Gu is under consideration. If I had a forward injury this week and went bollocks, I'm going to go 2 up front. Otherwise, as I said, I think Bowen, Watkins and João Pedro would be my front 3. I feel like the whole rest of my team could still change.
They have got so many players listed on fantasy right now, Sunderland. Like, so many midfielders, so many defenders, even so many forwards. Look at Man City have got 1 forward listed in the game, James. Haaland, that's it. Sunderland have got at least 6, I think, 5 or 6.
Some of them are, Burnley have got about 6 rubbish as well, but after them just...
I get nothing. It. It's just such a lot of depth. Well, not depth, volume of players in there. Sunderland off the table for me right now. I mean, they're going to get smashed in game week 1. So, no, I think it's going to be a draw, if I'm honest with you. I'm actually going to probably predict a 2-2 draw in that game, but we shall see.
Their midfield is probably stronger than yours. I keep thinking
that. Yes. Yeah.
That's wild, that.
Depends who you say our midfield is. I'd say
I think
Alvarez,
as it stands, it's Potts, Ward, Prowse and Paqueta.
Now, I'd say Alvarez, Potts, Paqueta. I think with adding Alvarez back in ahead of Ward-Prowse gives us the kind of solidity, defensive-minded nature player that we potentially need. But yeah, Sunderland, I think they'll do all right in the first 3, but not under consideration.
Well, they've got to. There's a great opening 3 that they've got. They've got to do well in them, as discussed with Spencer. Yeah, I think they're going to be overlooked for me, I think.
Good. Cool. James, that's a lot on all of the clubs. Should we cover off our drafts and where we're at?
Go on,
and then towards the end of the week, we'll get into any questions as people wrap up. And obviously, you got your Ask James stream on Thursday, time to be confirmed. Who's going first, you or me?
Yeah.
So Sells in goal. As it stands right now, Sells in goal. set and forget kind of mindset. With Dubravka as the backup. This is obviously with a bench boost in mind, right? In game week 1. So let's hope that I get news that Dubravka is going to play, or I may need to change that. Anyone that's going big at the back or thinks they're going big at the back and doesn't have 6 million defenders, a 5.5 and a 4.5, are you even really? I've got Gabriel in at the moment at 6 million. I've got 8 Nori in at 6 million. I've got Van Dijk / Frimpong in. The graphic shows Van Dijk, I think, from the screenshot I took, but it could easily be Frimpong. Call it a Liverpool 6 million in. Diouf, we've spoken plenty about over the last few weeks on this pod. The more I watch of him, the more I just am convinced that he's an excellent left back. He'll get picked up from us within a couple of seasons, like no doubt about that. So I'm starting the 4 of them. I'm starting Diouf over Porro because I think Sunderland away versus Burnley.
There's no way Porro is one of your weakest players there at home to Burnley. Come on.
I mean, it's irrelevant. It's a bench boost, so we could waste time arguing whether Diouf away at Sunderland or Porro at home to Burnley is a better pick. It makes no difference. So that's my defence. There's a lot of money in defence, James. A lot of money in defence there, but all of them as individual picks, you can't really argue with. My midfield is Palmer with the armband as it stands right now. Bruno Fernandes, Mr. Consistent. Vert, big upside this season. And then 2 budget picks that I think will really tick along nicely in Elliot Anderson and Dewsbury Hall. Anderson and Dewsbury Hall are on the bench as it stands right now. The front 3 we've talked about is the same as yours, mate. Jared Bowen, looking sharp, looking on fire, looking fresh. Ollie Watkins with the great set of opening fixtures, and João Pedro, crazy ownership, but also really good fixtures as well. So I'm pretty happy with this squad. I'm pretty happy with the game week 1 bench boost. Burnley at home, Leeds away, Brentford at home for Elliot Anderson. If I was to get 10 points, 12 points off that bench, I'd be happy. Big question mark is right now Martin Dubravka and how I fix that problem should he not start, because I have no money in the bank.
What you need to work out is your contingency planning, because the consequence of you not having a 4.0. So I think, like, for example, if you go sales, if it's like Valdemarsen's going to start this weekend, even just as a one-off, you go, yeah, bollocks, that's it, and just stick it in and go, well, I'll play sales every week, it's fine. But consequence might be that you feel you have to go up. Then there's the net consequence. What I keep thinking is, do I want to be spending 9.5 million on 2 goalkeepers?
Well, no, I don't.
Right. So what I'm saying is this is a big influence for me as well. You might need to have a contingency of 2 different goalkeepers, but then you're also still spending the same money. So you just need to know what that downgrade is in your mind. Is it like Porro to Romero? Is it Dewsbury Hall to King? What is it? You just need to know what that downgrade is going to be.
Yep. Exactly that. But it's very much.
You'd go Porro to Romero, I think.
Yeah, most likely. Because Dewsbury Hall, I want as a long term.
But you might also come to a conclusion, again, thinking about this differently. If you go 2 keepers, you might think, oh shit, now I want some Forest. So you might think, right, I'm going to take one of them 6s out and go Murillo, or I'm going to go Porro to Williams.
I'm not likely to move cells, if I'm honest with you. The other thought
if you have to change the keeper,
mind,
you might feel like you want to.
Yeah,
if you have to change Dubravka.
That crossed my mind with Dubravka was, what did I expect? 2 points anyway. Just sack it off.
There is that, yeah.
Just leave it be. I'm not going to get as 2 points down that I potentially am. Just leave it be. And that hasn't crossed my mind either. Because,
I mean, if Tottenham had a penalty and he starts, there's every chance he'll save it.
Oh, James.
Yeah, listen, holding PSG to 0-0 on Wednesday ain't going to do sod all for us, mate. We won't win the penalty shootout.
The one downside of my squad right now is that there is no single move to get to Salah or Haaland, should I need to. No single move. But the way that the chips are this year and so on and so on, the 5 free transfers come in game week 16. I can pull my wild card early. If I need to tear it up, and I need to wildcard in the first international break or whatever to get a Haaland or a Salah, I'll tear it up. So be what it will be. But I'm happy with the squad actually. I'm quite settled now. A couple of fringe bits to play around with on that Dubravka stuff and stuff we talked about. But I'm happy. I think it's all good.
Okay, I'll show you mine, but I'm going to show you two because I'm nowhere near decided. But again, I think that the front three's a bit of a lock until one of them gets injured this week. So for Bruggen and Perry, this is intended game week one bench boost at the moment. For Bruggen and Perry, Frimpong, Porro, James Tarkowski, Wan-Bissaka, and Ezri Konsa. As I said, in that combination with the others, Konsa gets used at bits that are good, like Burnley at home. I've looked at alternatives within the weeks I would need it, and he's still the standout for me. Midfield, Palmer, Fernandez, Verts, Gakpo, Dewsbury Hall. That team is bust with Gakpo captain at the moment. Love that team. However, I think it is a big problem from a structure perspective. Because if I decide I want to put Bruno Fernandes in, the only way, not Bruno Fernandes, Mo Salah,
Yeah, I was going to say Fernandez is already
sorry.
in there. Yeah.
The only way it can be done in two moves is up from Palmer on Watkins down to 5.0 or lower. So go, right? Now, if I'm in a position then where I have to play Dewsbury Hall regularly or Wan-Bissaka regularly, that would potentially be fine. But I think I love this team. I think from a structure perspective, it's a big problem. But what I would also say is if Salah and Haaland are to be overlooked when I look at transfer plans moving on in terms of wanting, say, Arsenal, Chelsea, maybe even bits of Brighton Palace at the periods that I want to, it all works pretty seamlessly and fine. And I could also put in Marmoush potentially as a coverage for game week 6 Burnley if I wasn't comfortable with saying a Liverpool player away to Palace or a different alternative in that particular week, like Watkins at home to Fulham. Doesn't feel like a great week for it. Probably would be Palmer at home to Brighton. However, I'm looking at this one as a potential alternative for me with Mo in. So changes to this, again, this is thinking a little bit more in terms of probably not bench boosting in game week 1, carrying longer to a point where it would fall into place or it just ends up getting used later on. Again, we'll discuss this more on Wednesday's podcast, but it's going a little bit safer. So Sells and Dubravka, the same keepers as you, and I just go Sells is playing every week and Dubravka might get in later on. Porro, Van Dijk, Cucurella. So Van Dijk instead of Frimpong, Cucurella, security a minute should be pretty good. Rodon and Esteve, cheapen it out. Midfield, Fernandez, Gakpo, stay. Salah, Anderson, King. That would be with the intention of playing Anderson probably nearly every week. Salah's captain, and it would be set up ideally to not bench boost game week 1, probably. Unless, if I got clarity on Dubravka, I would maybe just pull it,
Mm-hmm.
Free hit game week 2, and then ideally leave it to go exactly the move I'd said earlier, Salah and Bowen to Haaland and Marmoush in game week 6. Then there's a navigation process of trying to get back into Palmer and Saka, which is doable, but probably has to wait for game week 9. That's okay. But that's that's the latest point I'd be comfortable with in terms of getting back to the Chelsea and Arsenal players. It does mean that the transfers are spent aggressively. So we're going like Salah, Bowen into Haaland's Marmoush, which I think is probably the right way to play it this year. It takes away the captaincy headache. It would be captain Salah 1, Haaland on free hit 2, or an Arsenal player, Fernandes 3, Salah 4, 5, Haaland 6 to 8, and then it's Palmer, João Pedro, Saka, Gyökeres, subject to form from that period to a wild card in 13. And the captaincy element of that is great. It really works. The structure of this second team is better. I like it way less. But I think it might be right. And to do it really, I mean, I can put Palmer back in here, right? And go Cucurella to a
Yeah.
4.5, downgrade Porro. There's bits I can do to put Palmer back in instead of Fernandez, as an example. But I just don't like this team as much. But I do think structure wise, it's better. Even moves further down the line, like Van Dijk to Gabriel, it works. Porro to Munoz, it works. All little bits further down the line in terms of Watkins to Gyökeres, the structure points of it all work really, really nicely. But it does mean that's the only place where the transfers are getting spent, really. Suddenly someone walks into an injury, it becomes like headache stuff because it's tighter. The one I've looked at on the other route with no Salah Haaland lands with me potentially going into a wild card, maybe even with sort of like 4 free transfers in game week 13. And you might think that's madness considering we're all going to have 5 from like game week 16, right? But it does allow complete like top in and out of Salah and Haaland across that period, spending the transfers there on that. Because I looked at a potential wildcard draft 13 and it would be tight to put them both in. Potentially really tough. So it could even be the transfers be used aggressively for that, Salah and Haaland for the captaincy, and then obviously it sticks with Haaland when Salah goes to AFCON.
Yeah, and again, like what's the point of the wild card? The wild card is there to tear it up and fix it should you need to. So no need to stress and worry about needing to get it right for 19 game weeks all in one go. Cool, James. A lot to happen over the next few days. I'm looking forward to Chip Talk, which we will record to go out. Did you say Wednesday that goes out? Thursday that goes out?
Yeah, we'll do chip strategy. That's going to be drilling into more like kind of what I want. I know a lot of people have free hit too and stuff. We're not going to do too much on stuff like that. It's looking at alternatives for like free hit, bench boost, particularly those two. I think wildcard does feel like there's some, like it's kind of 7, 8, and then 13, 14,
Yeah.
or early. Those
Yeah.
feel like kind of free slots people are looking at. But I'm intrigued to investigate if people think that there are alternatives and stuff. So if anybody's got any wacky, I don't mean like the kind of the obvious ones. Anyone's wacky, oh, I've noticed game week 11 sounds great for a bench boost. Tag me on Twitter. Let me know.
Good. Yes, indeed. I think that will help because I've not overly looked at chip strategy myself, although I will before we record. That might shape what my attitude is going into game week 1 with my current squad. Good. James, this is a long old pod. People got plenty to listen to this week to get themselves ready for Friday. Any comments you have, jump in on YouTube and chuck them in there and we'll definitely have a look. Share the pod if you like. Subscribe wherever you are listening to the audio or on YouTube as well. As we mentioned, we need to get to that plaque, which is like, I don't know, 1 billion followers or whatever YouTube want from us before they'll send us some gold-plated stuff. I think it's 100k, isn't it, James, to get the one made out of
I don't
plastic.
know. I'm just going to cut a triangle into a piece of cardboard and put it on display behind me.
I was just going to use a Sharpie. So indeed. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Back at you tomorrow. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please. Man child.